phone. So finally, here we are. How you doing?
Oh, how are you?
I'm very good. It's very rainy. I'm in New York City right now.
Ah.
I'm getting ready to start doing a play tomorrow. I start rehearsals. So I've only been here about a week.
Oh,
But I
wow.
love it here. My husband and I work in New York and Los Angeles. So he's here too doing a play. We're doing both doing plays, but different plays.
What play are you working on?
I'm getting ready to do, it's a really interesting and little done Tennessee Williams play.
Okay.
Tennessee Williams, you know, who wrote Glass Menagerie and Streetcar Named Desire. This is one of his later plays, and not many people know it. It's called A Lovely Sunday for Crev Kerr, and takes place in St. Louis, Missouri, where Tennessee Williams lived for many years.
Okay.
And a lot of the things in the play are real things, real places and real streets and schools and things.
Okay.
So it's very accurately written. And I play a not very nice woman. So, and it's only four characters, and they're all women. So I'm very excited to work on a play that's just women.
Well, good luck on it.
Yeah. So, so that's what I'm doing. My husband's doing a play with, do you know Edie Falco, who was on The Sopranos?
Mm-hmm.
She played the wife on the TV show The Sopranos.
Okay.
And she was on Nurse Jackie. She was Nurse Jackie. That's Edie Falco.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, she's amazing. He's working with her, and they've been working on a week, so he's kind of in love with her. So that's okay. It's work love.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I would like to offer my congrats on the casting announcements for Marvel's Punisher.
Oh, thank you.
And you just wrapped up filming yesterday, right?
Gosh, you know a lot about this already, because they're very careful on the set about the information that they give out.
Mm-hmm.
They won't let you have scripts much ahead of time, and they're very careful about that information getting leaked.
Right.
But I guess it was announced that Corbin Burnson and I are playing this kind of wealthy, nasty couple. So, so yeah, I just finished that last Tuesday, not quite a week ago. Yeah, it was really fun. The people are lovely. And I finally got to work with John Bernthal on Tuesday, which was fun. He's a lovely, lovely guy.
Yeah. He's really great on the show as well. I too love the show, so I'm really excited to see you.
I find it so violent. I had never seen it, and I watched when they asked me to be on it. I watched it, and it's so violent that it's like Walking Dead. It's like there's so much blood and guts that it becomes a little funny. So I'm not as scared as much as I'm grossed out by it sometimes.
So when you auditioned for your role on Punisher, what was it about your take on the character that made the producers like you so much?
Well, I didn't audition.
Really?
It's every once in a while I get very lucky and people know me from different things and they just offer me a role. And I met Steve Lightfoot, who's the creator and the writer of the show, just the other day. And I talked to him on the phone about the character, but the first time I met him was last week. And when we said goodbye to one another, he said, "I've always been a fan of yours. Thank you for coming to do this." So I think people in that world, that, comic book, fantasy sort of world, know me from Superman and from Smallville, and, that I've been in that world a long time. Now I've switched over to Marvel. That's a change for me. But I think he just, I've gotten a nice reputation as somebody who can play a lot of different things. I don't just play the kind of sweet mother that I was on Smallville. I can also do, we're actors. We play all these different parts. And so I was certainly nasty in this one. I'm playing a lot of nasty people. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm a brand new fan of Smallville, I just have to say. I just started watching it a month ago for the first time.
Well, you were just born when it started. So it's
just a
understandable
couple years
that you
after I was
would
born.
come to it late, yeah.
But I gotta say, I love it, so I'm waiting for the next season to come from the library when I ordered it.
Oh, good. It's a fun show. It was really fun to do.
What was it like to transition from DC to Marvel?
It's been so long. Smallville lasted 10 years. I was only on it the first 6, and then I came back for a couple of episodes later on. But, you know, that's a long time ago now. So I've done so much work in between then that it didn't seem weird. It seems to me, just in general, I don't know the Marvel world terribly well. I watched the first season of The Punisher. I watched some Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
It's much darker, it seems like.
Yeah.
More contemporary and just grittier.
Right.
That world. You know, that Batman as opposed to Superman kind of.
Yeah. Those kind of shows kind of remind me of Gotham because that's how gruesome it is, too.
Exactly, yeah. So it wasn't, you know, and being an actor, you know, you go into different situations all the time, and you just try to do the best job you can, and give them what they are hoping for. So it wasn't that big a step for me.
Okay, what would you say is the most exciting part of being in the comic book universe?
Exciting? The fact that people can fly and have these special powers, and like on Smallville, every single week was some new, you know, strange power that somebody would come in with.
Yeah.
And that's really fun. The fact that nothing is impossible, you know, that people can do these strange things, and it's like, oh, okay, that's just that thing this week. I love that. You know, I love my greatest wish ever since I was a kid was to be able to fly. to live vicariously through Clark, you know, when he finally starts to take off.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've gotten to that part in Smallville when he starts flying and he kind of accidentally starts flying. It's just really fun, and I just love that I've always loved comic books. When I was a kid, I used to trade comic books at school, and I've always enjoyed them, and I don't read them much anymore, but I think they serve such a good purpose, and they're also a good way for people to get into reading. Because like the graphic novels now, I think, are a good introduction into people like getting into this other world. You can go anywhere with books and with comic books. And
did you have a favorite that you would like to read?
When I was a kid, I loved Superman. Strangely enough, I really loved Superman, but I also loved Betty and Veronica. And Archie, the Archie comics. Of course, that's all a whole big thing now with Riverdale.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of Riverdale. Do you watch that show?
It's so good.
Is it good?
It's really good.
I know it won all the Teen Choice Awards. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just haven't got. I know I've got a lot to do and watch myself, so I haven't really gotten into it. But I loved. There were a lot of comic books I liked. One was called Sugar and Spike. And they were twins, a boy and girl baby twins, Sugar and Spike. And I liked Little Lulu. I liked Nancy, the little girl kind of comics.
Right.
But then I really loved Superman. So.
But how can you not get into Superman?
Exactly, I know.
What drives you to pick the comic book roles in your films?
You know, it's just been accidental. It really has. As I said, I loved them growing up, and then when they asked me to be in Superman 3, I loved those movies too, and I was thrilled to death to be part of that universe. And then it never occurred to me that I would go back. In fact, I kind of went the other way. I didn't want to do any more comic book stuff because when I was younger, I didn't want to get typecast into that kind of world. You know, as an actress, you want to be able to do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But by the time I was older and they asked me to do Smallville, I went and met the producers, and it was the first time that I know of that they did anything like a retelling of something that we always knew one way.
Right.
Like the Kents, Ma and Pa Kent, were old people.
Yeah.
They were like gray hair, old farmer people.
Yeah.
And when they brought me in, they said they want to meet you for the part of Martha Kent. And I said, what? I'm still pretty young, you know, I'm not that old. But I went in, and then they talked to me about how they were seeing this whole new way of that they were going to be these young, vital, you know, couple in their 40s, and they find this baby, and so it's not weird that they adopt this child. They're still young enough to be their parents rather than grandparents. So, and I was very lucky because when they first did the pilot for Smallville, I was doing another show. I wasn't available for it. So they cast another actress in the part. It's all the same cast except Martha Kent. Right. So they shot the whole thing. And then I think they decided she was a little too young, that actress. So they wanted to replace, and this happens a lot when they do pilots.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will replace actors. So they wanted to talk to me, and I went in and I was available, and I went in and talked to them. And they said, let us send you the script and the pilot, because they'd put it all together. And I watched it. It was so good, especially for that time. This was the year 2001. It was
right.
before 9/11 and everything. And I watched it, and I said, oh, gosh, I'm in trouble. I really like this. This is really good. So I committed to it. And it was weird because I was living in Los Angeles, but it was shot in Vancouver. And my kids were teenagers then, so it involved a lot of flying back and forth.
Right.
And so it was just part of the job, that I have to do this commute. And the best thing that happened from that was my friendship with John Glover, who plays Lionel Luthor in the show. Yeah. I don't know if you've gotten to there in your watching of it, but in fact, I'm having dinner with him tonight, with John Glover. He's in town rehearsing a play, and outside of my family, he's one of my best friends.
Right.
I just adore him. And, so I'm gonna see him later. In fact, I bought him a cake. I'm gonna take a cake because we're celebrating his birthday, which was last week. We didn't get to be together because we were both working, so that'll be tonight.
He's really talented on the show.
Yeah.
I think the part from when I was watching it, when he was pretending to be blind the entire time.
Yeah, right.
That surprised me because it was very convincing.
Yeah, he did a great job with that. And I loved that part of the story because I got to work a lot with him.
Yeah.
Because I become his secretary or whatever, his assistant or something.
Yeah.
So that was nice because I just love working with John. Because otherwise we just fly up together. We kind of meet at the airport and go on the plane together, and
right.
And then we stayed in apartments that were very near to one another. So sometimes we get together for dinner. But we didn't have a lot to do in the show together, except for that particular time.
Right.
That one kind of that's not true. Later on, we did some stuff. It's been so long, though. I don't remember a lot about it. So much has happened since then.
So when you first arrived on the set of the show, who did you hit it off with the most?
Oh, well, see, John wasn't there then. I guess because I was coming in and out so much, I didn't really hang out with many people on the set. There's this wonderful guy named Steve Oben who was with us from the beginning, and he is a costume person. He's the wardrobe person mostly for Tom Welling. But he's a brilliant guy. He's so funny and sweet, and he writes. And I don't know, he was just one of those people that I still correspond with. I guess John Schneider, just because we were playing husband and wife, and we had kids the same age. Our children, my stepson, Fletcher, and his daughter, Leah, went to high school together.
Oh,
and they were going to high school together when we were doing the show. So we would get, when we come home, we go over his house for a Christmas party, and, and they graduated together, and they're still very, very close friends, Leah and Fletcher.
That is great.
Yeah.
So, do you keep in touch with any of the cast members from your other projects or Smallville?
Well, definitely John Glover.
Yeah. I didn't.
And since Fletcher and Leah are still good friends, I hear of John Schneider. And I used to be on Twitter, and I am a little bit now, but I used to follow John and different people on Twitter. And I ran into Tom a few years ago in Texas. We were both at the South by Southwest Film Festival. He was there doing a movie, actually. This was about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
And gosh, that's the last time I've seen Tom. I hear of Michael Rosenbaum every once in a while. I loved him. He was great. But that's pretty much it, I think. Steve, the costume designer.
And I got Stephen King questions here.
Sure.
What is your fondest memory of making it?
Gosh, so many. I just remember I was the only girl, of course, and this whole group of boys, very funny, very smart guys. And I just remember sitting and being entertained all day long and never being scared. I mean, shooting that movie was never scary. It was just really a lot of, it was like summer camp. It was so much fun, and it was summertime, and it was in Vancouver, and I had known Richard Thomas for a long time, so he and I went way back. We did a play together in the early 70s, and before that even I'd known Richard. And I knew John Ritter. We had done a movie together, and our kids went to school together too. It's all these, you know, it's a small community in LA, so your kids know one another, you know. But my fondest memory, let me think. I'll tell you what my fondest memory is. When we first started, before we started shooting, they brought us up a little bit early to rehearse. So during the day, we would sit around a table and talk about the movie and go through scenes and talk about our parts and stuff. And 2 nights, they took us out together, because we didn't have a lot of time to kind of bond, and the whole idea of this story is how close these kids are, I mean, incredibly close. So they took us out, and we had this lovely dinner at this restaurant. They took over the kind of private room in the back for us in this restaurant. We had dinner, and we had such a good time, and then we went outside and to this club, and there was dancing. And I danced with each one, even Tim Curry, even Pennywise. And we just kind of, as we were dancing, it was just kind of this bonding thing. It kind of like, it was like really quick, you know, just it's one of those instantaneous connections that happen with people. So that was really fun. I think that's my very fondest memory.
What did you like most about Tim Curry's Pennywise?
Most about it?
Yeah.
Well, I really, you know, seeing it for me it's so different because I was there. Yeah. You know, I know all that it went into. I knew how it was rigged. I knew all that stuff. So, and I've only seen it, I think, once, the whole thing. But my admiration for him is so enormous in every way. You know, his acting, everything about him. But sitting through that kind of makeup session, it didn't happen overnight. They kept trying different makeups on him.
Right.
We would all be shooting scenes. He had his own separate makeup trailer with a makeup person and a wig person, and he would go in there, and we wouldn't see him all day. Every once in a while, we'd see him kind of come out, and they'd do some photos and do some filming, you know, like a makeup test with the director, and then he'd go back into the trailer. So basically, all he did was, like, sit in this trailer for days while they figured out exactly what they wanted the makeup to be. There were a lot of different incarnations of that makeup. So, you know, and the fact that this man, he came to town, this was before, like, books on Kindle and all that stuff, this was 1990, he would go to the big bookstore in Vancouver and buy hardback books. He read constantly. He just, I was never in his hotel room, but somebody had been in his hotel room. They said, his room is just, like, stacked with books. He was just this, you know, incredible, dedicated reader, which I so admire about him. As I love to read too, but I don't read like that.
How did you feel about the remake of It?
I didn't see it, Belle. You know why I didn't see it? They never sent me an invitation. That's why I didn't see it. I thought, I'm not going to pay to see It. That's ridiculous. Why should I do that? I did see Seth Green at a party right when it was out. And he said, have you seen it? I said, no. I said exactly what I said to you. I'm not going to pay to see It. He laughed at that. I think he had paid to go see it. He said it was good. He liked it very much. And some of my family saw it and really liked it. And the girl who played Beverly, the young Beverly, she's in, I just saw photos of her. She looked great.
Yeah.
I saw her in Sharp Objects. Have you seen that show? It's on HBO. She plays the young Amy Adams. Okay. Amy Adams was in Smallville, like our 3rd episode of Smallville. Did you recognize her in that? Amy Adams?
Who is she in that?
She's the girl, the big, heavy girl who opens her mouth really wide.
That was her?
That's Amy Adams. That was one of her first big jobs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, go back and look at it again. You'll be shocked.
I'm gonna have to now.
Yeah. It was like a really early episode, like 3rd or 4th or 5th episode.
What was my question? You surprised a lot of Stephen King fans by appearing in another adaptation of his work, in 11/22/63. How did that come about?
Well, they asked me to do it, and I was so excited, and I loved working with Ethan Hawke. I mean, he's brilliant. I just think he's amazing. I'm not Ethan Hawke. I'm crazy. You know what I'm talking about. You know, star. I've lost my mind. 11/22/63. I'm asking my husband. The lead, 11/22/63. The actor, James Franco. This is what happens, Belle, when you get older. This is what happens, right in front
I get around to the same thing, too. I'll just get so much stuff in my mind.
Well, we all have too much input, I think. James Franco. He was fabulous. Mm-hmm. And I still haven't seen it. Just the other day, my husband said, are we ever going to watch this Stephen King thing you were in? I'm only like this much of it. But they just wanted me to be in it. And then when I was there shooting, they said, you know, you're an Easter egg. I said, what? I said, you're an Easter egg to be in the show, you know, for Stephen King fans. Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, well, that's what I was, basically.
Like a secret. Surprise.
Yeah, but I loved it, and I got the book from the library to see if I could find my part, and there's no real part there. They kind of made that part up. She's a name on a boarding room sign or something, and they just made that whole person up.
So did you read the It novel too before you started shooting the movie?
I did. It was sort of my Bible. I had underlined parts of it, and I still have the copy of It at home, the things written in the margins. Oh yeah, I was a Stephen King fan anyway. Love Stephen King.
Well, what's your favorite Stephen King book?
My favorite is probably The Stand, and the Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. Do you know that book?
I haven't gotten to that one yet.
Oh, it's good. It's not a scary one. It's not that. What's scary about it is human stuff. It's about a little girl who gets lost in the woods, and about she loves this baseball player. He's a real baseball player named Tom Gordon, and his son Dee Gordon was a Los Angeles Dodger for a while. He's now, I think, in Florida, Marlins, and he's a wonderful baseball player. So those were real people, but her love for this baseball player gets her through this ordeal she goes through. It's a really wonderful book.
If you could play any Stephen King character you haven't played yet, who would it be?
I loved in, I would never get to play this part, but in Dr. Sleep, that crazy, what's her name, the woman that has the hat. She has one of her names is the something hat.
Oh my gosh, I forgot too.
You know, anyway, she's like the major villain, one of the major villains in that, and I love that character. I'd love to play that, but I'm way too old. I'm way too not right. So.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the movie too.
Yeah, I bet that's going to be really good. Well, not all his, but most of his movies are at least interesting if you've read the books.
Alright, I got 4 more questions here.
Sure, don't worry. Take your time.
Alrighty. If you can go back and change something about one of your films or TV roles, what would it be and why?
That's such a good question. Gosh, I've never been asked that question. You know, it's weird because I'd probably change I'd probably change everything. But I don't watch, I watch usually what I've done once, and then I don't watch it again. In Stand By Your Man, where I play Tammy Wynette, Stand By Your Man, I would have had better wigs. That was totally out of my control. The wigs were horrible. They were supposed to be her hair, you know, that was really dyed and fried, you know, made into these things. But the wigs were, they looked like wigs on a doll. So I would have changed that, definitely.
That's a good one.
Let's see, what else? You know, every time I do something, you know, you go back and you look at it later and you think, oh, I could have done that better. I could have made that. But when you're doing it, it's so hard to know what take they're going to use, because they do more than one take of something.
Right.
And you have no control of it. That's why I love doing theater so much now, because you work with the director and the other actors, and then every night, every performance, it's just you and the audience, and you're fellow actors, and you're making it fresh every night.
Right.
And if you get things wrong or they don't go the right way, you get another chance the next performance to do it. So that's why I love that. But in film, it's so different. It's just set in stone, and you don't know how they're going to cut it or make you look or anything. So your question is so interesting. I wish I could give it a better answer, because I'm sure there's so many things I would change. But right now, it's not coming to me exactly, except for what I just...
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Who or what was your inspiration to act?
When I was 9 years old, my mother had a dancing school in Houston, Texas, where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And I hesitated because it wasn't acting exactly, it was performing. I wanted to be a dancer and a singer, a musical comedy performer, before I wanted to do just straight acting.
Yeah.
So that's really the beginning of it. And this girl in my mother's dancing school, her name is Karen Romano. I still keep in touch with her. I was 9, she was 12. And I just thought she was a wonderful dancer, and I just loved who she was, and I went up to her and I said, "How do I get to be as good a dancer as you are?" And she said, "Come every day and dance." And it was so simple, but it's kind of profound. It's like, whatever you want to do, just keep doing it.
Right.
Whatever it is. And so she was really the inspiration for and I was very lucky that I could come to dancing every day. My mother didn't have to pay for it. My mother was the teacher, so I could just come and show up and dance all day, and I would do my homework in between classes. Yeah. But then I started acting. There's a theater in Houston called the Alley Theater, which is a very famous regional theater, and it had just begun when I was really young. And it was in an alley. You entered it from an alley, which is why they called it that. Now they've rebuilt it, and it's this huge, gorgeous theater with a front entrance. So I started working there, and I did the whole from Midsummer Night's Dream, the whole mechanicals play within the play, where it's Pyramus and Thisbe and this whole thing. They do a play at the end of Midsummer Night's Dream for the court. So we worked on that, and I was a girl playing a boy playing a girl. So that was really fun. I enjoyed that a lot. That was my very first acting role. And then from then on, I was just really lucky. I worked really hard. When I was 17, I started studying acting. So I had a teacher I really loved named Robert Ellenstein. Have you ever seen the movie North by Northwest? The Hitchcock film?
No, but I really want to.
See that movie. You will love that movie. In the very beginning, Cary Grant, who's the leading man, is kidnapped by these two guys. One of them has a hat on. The man with the hat on was my first acting teacher, my first really serious acting.
Wow.
Robert Ellenstein. You'll see him, and he's in a lot of different movies at that time. And he was an inspiration for me. And then I had another teacher down the road, Peggy Fury, who I loved, and everybody was in her class. Many, many people who came up when I did were in the class. And I was lucky because I would study with her, and then I'd get a job on some TV show, Gunsmoke or The Rookies or some show of the time. And I would be able to practice what I learned in class. So because everybody has to find their own way to do it. It's a complicated process, but the more you practice, the better you get at it. And I was lucky to get to do that.
And that is very good advice there, because I do I work on projects every day. I'm an artist, so I draw every single day just to practice.
Oh my God, that's great. That's what you have to do. Yeah.
What kind of movies or TV shows do you like to watch?
I like a lot of different things. We saw the Mission Impossible movie yesterday, which I loved. Have you seen it yet? I'm
going to see it next Sunday.
It's awesome. It's pure entertainment. It's
I heard.
Very stressful, because you sit there like the whole time you're just tense.
I heard, and I definitely heard that it was the best one in years.
Oh, it's really, really good. So I enjoyed that a lot. The best TV show I've watched recently is actually a German show called Babylon Berlin. Okay. It's on Netflix, and you have to watch it with subtitles. And it's actually two seasons of it have been out, but it's wonderful. I mean, it's 1929 Germany between the wars. So it's really, there's all these military and political factions coming up. But in the middle of it are these people you just love. There's this young girl who wants to be the first woman on the German police force in the homicide section. And she's a wonderful actress. So I watched that. We watched Sharp Objects we've been watching, which we're enjoying. A lot of the cable shows and things like that. I don't watch a ton of... I love The Amazing Race. That's my favorite show, like network show when it's on.
Yep.
A lot of them. We watch too much TV. Better
I
Call
do
Saul.
the same thing too. I
Better
can't
Call
even catch
Saul
up with
'cause my
them.
husband's on it. Yeah. TV bullets.
Other than The Punisher and your play, are you working on any other new projects?
I did a movie earlier this year, which I think might be really good. It was directed by two young women, and that was I'd been directed by two men before, but they had written the script, and it's me, Margot Martindale, and June Squibb. I don't know if you know June Squibb. She's a wonderful actress. She's older. She's been around a long time. Okay. And it's about, it takes place in Maine, and we shot it in Maine. And while we were there, it was supposed to be beautiful and sunny and by the water and, kind of springtime. It was March, but the nor'easter hit. So everything's covered in, feet of snow.
Oh, no.
They had to, kind of improvise.
It was a bad year for the weather.
Yeah. Actually, it was beautiful. We have these shots of us walking along the water, and there's all this snow everywhere. So I think it's going to be, they just had to change their script a bit, and it was hard to shoot in it all. I mean, a couple of days we were snowed in, we couldn't even work.
Oh, no.
But I did that, and I've been doing a lot of theater. Last year I did 3 plays. And there's an independent film I did that I think is supposed to come out this year called The Incoherence, about a rock band getting back together. But I have a very small part in that. I like to do little roles where they call me and say, hey, would you come do this? And say, sure. Yeah. I like to encourage people who are doing new things and who,
Right. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Oh, Belle, I enjoyed it so much. Your questions were awesome, really. They were some of the best questions I've ever had, and it really made me think, and I wish I had better answers for them.
That's okay. You did great here.
Anyway, thanks so much. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. I hope we do another one sometime.
Absolutely, anytime. Just call me up.